President Trump is so freaked out about Democrats winning back the House that he's already moving to hamstring the Russia investigation. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. The more results we get from Tuesday's elections, the clearer it becomes that this was a blue wave and a national repudiation of Trump's presidency. Democrats had their biggest net gain in the House since Watergate. They won the popular vote in the House by about 7 points. And they won statewide races in key swing states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Or as Trump put it,
the Republican Party defied history to expand our Senate majority while significantly beating expectations in the House for the midterm and midterm year.
Sorry, did you say the Midtown year? Oh, okay, I see what's happening. Trump thought it was the Midtown election, not the midterm election. That's why he spent all his time campaigning at the M&M store with the Times Square Spider-Man. And tonight I am happy to announce that Dirty Elmo has been elected to the House of Representatives at Bubba Gump Shrimp. So for a few hours, the big story was Democrats massively outperforming Republicans in the House and in swing states across the country, which of course meant Trump had to do something crazy to get the spotlight back. And that's what happened yesterday when Trump lost his mind on national television in a press conference. In fact, at one point, he got so mad at a question about the Russia investigation that he had to walk away from the podium.
On the Russia investigation, are you concerned that you may have
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Look at him. President Ralph Cramden over there. One of these days! But aside from his usual theatrics, Trump's performance yesterday was deeply revealing because it made it clear that he sees himself as above the law. In fact, he can't even explain how laws work or how they're made. Listen to Trump ramble about how he can't pass tax cuts because he doesn't have the votes in Congress.
This will have to be now proposed because if we did it now, we don't have the votes in the Senate. We would need 10 Democrat votes. We probably couldn't get them. If we could pass it very easily in the House, but there's no reason to waste time because you don't have the votes in the Senate. So now we go into the Senate. We don't have the 10 votes. And what happens? It doesn't get passed. Even if it gets out of the House, it doesn't get passed.
It's like watching an episode of Schoolhouse Rock if the bill overdosed on Ambien. Now, one feature of our constitutional system is that Congress gets to constrain the power of the president and investigate him. And right after their victory in the House, Democrats announced that they would use that power to request Trump's tax returns, which he has hidden from the public despite the fact that presidents going back decades have released theirs. And when he was asked about that yesterday, you could tell Trump was freaking out from how much he rambled through his answer.
Point blank, Democrats go after your tax returns. Will you try to block that, or will you allow them to have them?
Well, look, as I've told you, they're under audit. They have been for a long time. They're extremely complex. People wouldn't understand them. They're done by among the biggest and best law firms in the country. Same thing with the accounting firms. The accountants are a very, very large, powerful firm from the standpoint of respect. They're highly respected. Big firm. But when you're under audit, and I'm on a very continuous audit because there are so many companies, and it is a very big company, far bigger than you would even understand. But it's a great company, but it's big, and it's complex, and it's probably feet high. It's a very complex instrument, and I think that people wouldn't understand it.
In other words, yes, I have a girlfriend, but she goes to another school, and the school is in Canada, and also she died. Also, what do you mean people wouldn't understand it? They're tax returns. Trump sounds like a dad who doesn't know how to answer a question from his 5-year-old. Dad, where does wind come from? You wouldn't understand. I definitely know the answer, but you wouldn't understand. Trump cannot abide any checks on his power because he sees himself as above the law. For him, laws aren't constraints. They're weapons to be wielded against your opponents. For example, He was asked what would happen if Democrats exercised their constitutional authority to investigate him, and he said that if they did that, he would consider it war.
Are you offering an my way or highway scenario to the Democrats? You're saying that
Negotiation. Not at all.
if they start investigating you, that you can play that game and investigate them.
Better than them.
Can you compartmentalize
And I
that?
think I know more than they know.
Can you compartmentalize that and still continue to work with them for the benefit of the rest of the country?
No.
Or are all bets off?
No. If they do that, then it's just all it is a warlike posture.
A warlike posture? I'm sorry, but I wouldn't say posture is your strong suit. You look like someone let the air out of the Michelin Man. In fact, Trump is so petty and vindictive that he actually took time out of his press conference to slam members of his own party who lost their re-election bids, implying that they lost because they didn't support him enough.
Candidates who embraced our message of low taxes, low regulations, low crime, strong borders, and great judges excelled. Barbara Comstock was another one. I mean, I think she could have won that race, but she didn't want to have any embrace. Peter Roskam didn't want the embrace. Eric Paulson didn't want the embrace.
Why does he keep calling it the embrace? Sounds like a Mike Pence euphemism for sex. Once a year on my birthday, we engage in the embrace. It's like a Seinfeld episode where George Costanza complains that he went in for a hug on a date and got rejected. I didn't get the embrace, Jerry. No embrace. She de-embraced. Looks like you'll have to embrace yourself. It's so much like a Seinfeld episode, Trump is even doing the baboo finger now.
You are a rude, terrible person.
He's a very bad man.
And it's not just his petty score settling. Trump's vindictiveness was very much on display with his power grab at the Justice Department and his decision to fire Attorney General Jeff Sessions. In that press conference, reporters tried to ask Trump how he would approach the Russia investigation now that the midterms are over and whether he would try to install a new attorney general. But Trump, who spent the entire press conference rambling and yelling at people, was suspiciously coy.
Can you give us clarity, sir, on your thinking currently, now after the midterms, about your attorney general and your deputy attorney general? Do they have long-term job security?
I'd rather answer that at a little bit different time.
You can say yes or no, but saying I'd like to answer that later is the most suspicious answer you can give. If you get pulled over and your answer to have you been drinking is let me get back to you, it's breathalyzer time. Of course, it turned out that Trump had already decided to fire Sessions, although he refused to do it himself.
Jeff Sessions was fired. He wrote a letter today saying that he was resigning at the request of the president.
The president, who became famous for the phrase, "you're fired," punting to his chief of staff to give Sessions the boot. John Kelly didn't even do it face-to-face, but opted to fire Sessions by phone.
These guys are such cowards. Trump didn't want to fire Sessions himself, so he had Kelly do it, and Kelly didn't want to do it either, so he just called him. I'm surprised they didn't just send Stephen Miller to perch on Sessions' windowsill. You're fired! With Democrats regaining power in Washington, Trump is now seriously threatened for the first time in his presidency, and in response, he's becoming more lawless. He sees the law not as a constraint on his power, but as a tool to protect himself. And as Jeff Sessions just learned, he'll attack anyone in his way, whether you're an opponent who hates him or a supporter who gives him
The embrace.
This has been A Closer Look.